Is this thing on? Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of M's Couch. I'm M. This is my couch. Let's talk about it. First off, I actually want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody who reached out regarding my first episode, gave me really great feedback. I'm trying to perfect this new craft of mine, and any and all feedback is great feedback for someone who has never done this before. Um, Also, I want to say thank you to everybody who shared my video. My first video actually got 200 views within 48 hours, which honestly I think that's amazing. I don't know what the usual stats are, but I'm not really doing it for stats. Like, I'm just doing it because for once this is like something that's my creative outlet where I can share myself, my true authentic um raw self. And there's really not much else what it as far as why am I doing this. So as I mentioned on my first video, I had been on and off with somebody for 3 years, and this was actually the longest that we've gone zero communication since the day we decided to split up. And mind you, this happened, I want to say, a month and a half to almost 2 months after we had decided to part ways. And it was one of those things where I've always said, like, I'd rather meet somebody organically than to meet them on a dating app. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with dating apps. There's nothing wrong with dating apps. I feel like sometimes you just some I've known people that have met the love of their lives on dating apps. Okay, so I'll go ahead and download that Chispa. Go ahead and download that Tinder. Go ahead and download that Hinge or Grinder. Go ahead and do you, boo. Don't let nobody tell you that you cannot be on these dating apps, okay? Because nowadays everybody's using them. So it just happens to be that this day, andaba bien cruda, okay? I had gone out the night before with some friends, and your girl had a little bit too much to drink, okay? Um, Mind you, I know how to handle my liquor, okay? I ain't sloppy. But I did have a lot to drink that night, and the next morning, um, I decided, like, I'm gonna go to the gym. Like, I missed my class, so you know what? We're going to the gym. So I got up, got ready. I went to the 7-Eleven by my house. And, mind you, I get there. I'm the type of person, cuando yo voy a un lado, yo voy a lo que voy. Yo no voy a estar viendo y mirando que, ay, mira esto, ay, mira lo otro. I'm not like that. Yo voy a lo que voy, and that's it. Entonces, happens to be that, I go in and I'm like, okay, I need a Celsius or whatever. I go to the little energy drink aisle, and I grab my Celsius, and then so I go to the front, to get cashed out. And it's not cashed out, it's r- to be rang up, to be, so they can bring me up. And the clerk starts, making platica about my lashes, and I'm like, oh yeah, I get them done in San Clarita. Shout out to my girl Yara. She's the one that keeps me beautiful. Like, this is her masterpiece, okay? So I'll tag her in the video, and as well I'll tag her on my Instagram. Let her know that sent you, and she'll hook you up, okay? I swear to God, Yara has been one of my longest relationships. Like, we're going on 4 years. 4 years. Like, crazy. Anyways. um and she starts telling me about my lashes, da da da. Okay, cool. So she rings me up, I pay, I walk out, and as I'm walking out, I see that this truck is coming towards me, and I'm like, what the hell? Mind you, todavía estoy bien cruda, so I'm just like, this is weird. But me being me, I'm like, oh, they're probably, just zooming by. So he comes by, and he stops, and he goes, hey. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah. And I'm thinking, like, this was just gonna ask for directions, because I live in a tourist city, so everyone's always asking for directions. Entonces that he goes, "Hey," and I'm like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Are you single?" And I'm like, "Why?" I straight up give him the why. And he goes, "Oh, nah." He's like, "You're really pretty." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Mind you, andaba con el pelo todo aborotado. Andaba sin maquillaje. I was in my gym clothes, okay? And he's like, "Oh, can I get your number?" And I'm thinking to myself, like, for what? Like, what are you gonna do with it? So I was just like, all right, mind you, again, ando con actitud porque, pues, obvio, ando cruda, ando de goma, como decimos nosotros los hondureños. And then I'm like, sure. So whatever, I give him my number and I ask him, I'm like, are you sure you don't got no wife, no kids? Like, cause my girls know some of these men be really shady. And he was like, nah. But I was like, okay. First off, this man, as handsome as he was not my type. Okay. Um, I have a specific type, and I think everybody does. Um, and that it wasn't that, it wasn't him. But I thought to myself, whatever, it's probably gonna die out. Who cares? It is what it is. So he ends up texting me. We end up talking for a few weeks, and he finally decides, to ask me out. So he asked me out and we met up at a bar. Okay. Ding ding ding. First red flag. So I was like, okay. But I think at that point I was just like, whatever, like let me just try to get back out there. I know that for some people it may take them a little bit longer to want to date or have the energy to date. Me personally, I think because I had already been through this rodeo with this person one too many times already, I kind of was just like, you know what? Like I'm just gonna focus on me, focus on my health, focus on getting to the gym, making a routine for myself because that was one of the things that I promised myself. And um we end up going to a bar and we have a drink there. Then he ends up telling me, "Hey, you know what? I know this bar towards the east. Why don't we go?" And I said, "Okay, sure." So we end up getting a lift from there to the bar. Once we get to the second bar, something in me was like, this isn't gonna end good. Pero dije, tal vez it's just, the first time jitters. I'm barely getting back out there. I'm barely, putting myself out there again. Maybe it's just that. Boy, was I wrong. So whatever. We end up going. Um, we get our first drink. Things are cool, we're talking. Then a fight breaks out. And in this fight, said gentleman decides to get up and pulls a big like hunter's knife out of his shorts. And I'm like, hijo, like, ¿qué es con quién ando? Like, no puede ser posible. Like, y este hombre, ¿dónde sacó esto? But I'm like, girl, just sit down, just don't say nothing, don't do nothing. I froze. I looked like a deer in headlights. Okay. Then he comes back in and he's like, hey, like, I'm sorry, it's just that these people, like, they're some of my friends. And I'm looking at him like, interesting. Okay. So, whatever. At this point, we're probably like, I want to say maybe like two drinks in, I want to say like maybe 2 hours after that whole thing went down. And he's like, hey, I'm going to go to the restroom. And I was like, okay, cool. And we're there sitting at the bar. And the bartender notices that I'm drinking an Angry Orchard. And he approaches me and he's like, hey, have you ever tried a snake bite? And I'm like, snake bite. Like, doesn't sound familiar. And he's like, yeah. He's like, it's half Angry Orchard, half Guinness. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm down to try it. So he's like, okay, cool. So he makes it for me. I give him my card to pay. And he's like, no, 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 like it's all good. Like it's on the house. Don't worry about it. So I'm like, okay, cool. So this gentleman comes back from the restroom and he looks at me, pero me da una mirada como que se me va a matar. And I was like, the hell is wrong with this fool? Like, what's going on here? So then that he tells me, like, he asks, like, "What are you drinking?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's a snake." I'm like, "Do you want one?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "But I knew you were a snake." And I was like, "¿Qué dijiste, maje?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "I knew you were a snake." And I was like, "Oh, hell nah." This is where the LA Latina comes out. And I'm like, "Okay." I grab my stuff. I look at him and I was like, and I walk out, toda encabronada. Mind you, I think at this point I probably was like 3 drinks in. And I was feeling a little buzzed. And it just happens to be that at the time, most of my friends had my location. So when I called one of my friends, one of my really good friends, I called her crying because I was so upset with the way this man treated me that I was like, never again. If this didn't prove to me that was just not ready, and I don't think I besides not being ready, but I just don't think that I was in that position in my life yet. um I don't know what like would have happened, like I took this as a sign of I'm not ready to date. I'm not ready to put myself out there, and especially I'm not ready to be treated like I'm just some trash. Like it's just not going to happen. So I end up my really good friend ends up picking me up, taking me home, and I want to say maybe 3 weeks later I get a random phone call from a uh 818 number, and I'm like, like I don't really have anybody in the valley. Um who could it be? Um and it just happens to be the guy. And I'm like, "Hello?" And he goes, "Hey, it's so and so." And I'm like, "What do you want?" And he goes, "Hey, I'm sorry, this and that." And I was like, "Look," I was like, "don't you ever in your life call me again. As a matter of fact, delete my number." And he's like, "No, like, he's like, "I feel so bad, this and that." I was like, "No need. Just do me the favor. Delete my number and like never ever ever speak to me again." And he was like, "It really wasn't that bad." And I was like, "Excuse me? What do you mean it wasn't that bad? You embarrassed me. Like, you're embarrassing." And he's like, "Damn, like that." And I was like, "Look, I'm not going to go back and forth with you." I was like, "Delete my number. Don't ever call me again." And I hung up. And honestly, since that experience, not only do I hold myself at a much higher standard in the sense of whenever my gut tells me something, it's telling me something for a reason. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've always struggled with that because I'm like, "Oh, maybe it's my anxiety lying to me, or maybe it's my intuition, I don't know, making me feel some type of way." But in this instance, I was like, "No, never again." Whenever I have that gut feeling of get out of there, that does not mean stay. That means get the out of there, okay? And so that's one thing. The second thing is moving forward after that experience, I told myself no dates at bars. Like no dates at bars. Like if you want to go on a date with me, we can do coffee, we can do boba, we can go on a walk to the park, but I'm not doing bar dates. Um Now, as far as like drinking on a date, I gave myself a 2 drinks max. Like, unless, obviously I've been dating this person for a while, or I feel like I'm safe, or there's other people around, friends, whatever, then obviously I up it on occasion. um but yeah, no, definitely not doing that again. And honestly, like, this guy was like screaming red flags, and honestly I'm kind of glad that things went the way they went, because not only was it a lesson to me about the things I tolerate and that I think is okay, and also what I expect from not just myself but from the person moving forward. Now I'm not saying that I'm holding these people to the same standards that I hold myself. No, no, no. Don't get it twisted, but I definitely do think that just, there has to be some level of respect. And I don't think that's a bad thing. um but that is the story of my date from hell. And let me tell you, I haven't gone out on a date since that experience up until recently. And honestly, I really enjoyed that date that I went on. um and I think, as time progresses, I think definitely I'm going to uphold those standards and uphold those boundaries. Ladies, uphold your damn boundaries, okay? If a man really wants to be with you, he's going to accept those boundaries and he's not going to push them, okay? That's another thing that I've learned. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of M's Couch. I will be doing another poll this coming week for next week episode. I know I'm one day late. My goal is to always have something uploaded Wednesdays by 7:30, but due to lifing, I am gonna be uploading this a day late. But please be expecting another episode next week on Wednesday at 7:30. Okay. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it and I'll see you guys soon.
Thanks for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe.